What's up, everybody? Welcome to day 12 of our 24 days of Christmas countdown. We are halfway there. 12 is half of 24, and we're on day 12. Luke chapter 12 will be our text for tonight. And I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Inspire with Fire. I'm Dr. Krista Abbott, your host. And we are here today to go through Luke chapter 12, one of my favorite chapters in the book of Luke, and I'll share a little bit about why that is as we go through tonight's text. But I just want to take a minute and welcome you guys as you come into the room. Give everybody a little bit of a minute to get here. I see a couple of you already rolling in. Go ahead and drop a note in the comments and let me know you can hear me okay, that everything is coming through loud and clear. Say hello, say what's up, so that I can give you some love in the comments and give you a shout out here on the broadcast tonight. So a little bit late tonight coming on. I'll let you guys know. Hello, Kelly. Good to see you. Seems like I've seen you recently, huh? But I'll let you guys know last night that I would be a little bit late tonight because I had a prior commitment before we started doing this that was very important to me, and is something that my friends and I also do to honor my mom. So this was still, kind of part of my Christmas honoring of my parents. And so, yeah, I'll tell you guys a story as we wait for people to come into the room. So I think it was about 20 years ago, my mom started doing these girls' night out dinners with a couple of ladies that she worked with. And they would get together on each other's birthdays and go out to dinner. And then they would go out for Christmas. And so they did this consistently for about 20 years. And about 10 years ago, well, 11 years ago now, they added me to the mix. My mom invited me to one of their events, and the first event that I went to with them was at a restaurant called Masa. And it was my birthday that we went for that. And it's an Asian fusion place here in town, and one of my favorite places to eat. But I don't go there very often. I only go there for special occasions. And they have the best sushi, y'all. And I love me some sushi, right? So, and now they have this dish. It's a rice bowl that's basically my favorite sushi roll in a bowl. It's like a disassembled roll of sushi in my bowl. I love it. And so obviously that's what I ate tonight. But anyway, so back to the story. My first dinner with these ladies was at Masa, and it was for my birthday that year. And I continued to be a part of their little girls club. And my mom introduced me to them and integrated me into their little friendship circle. And and that tradition continued. And our last girls' dinner together with my mom was on Christmas the year before she passed, Christmas 2021, and we were at Masa. So my first dinner with the ladies was at Masa, and the last dinner that my mom shared with us was also at Masa. So we have continued the tradition since my mom passed, and we continue to meet up for birthdays, and whoever the birthday person is gets to pick the restaurant. And then for Christmas, we continue the tradition, and we have agreed amongst us that Masa is our traditional Christmas location. So shout out to Masa for hosting us tonight and for all the good sushi. So if I start getting a little sleepy, y'all, it's because my belly's full of rice and crab and the sushi rolls. But I just want to give a shout out to Kelly and Rosa, who have been on these broadcasts with us. They are the two friends that I'm talking about. And we have continued this friendship connection, and it's grown. Our bond, I think, has grown closer since my mom went to heaven. And so, yeah, we got together tonight, and we had pre-planned our Christmas dinner for tonight, 12/12, to remember mom and to remember the laughs and all the good times that we've had together at our many, many years of dinners out. And so that's why I'm late tonight. So I trust you guys can um, appreciate that and smile with me at the wonderful laughs that we had tonight. And y'all, we laughed. Oh my God, we were laughing so much. And so, but it was a fun time. I'm excited to be here with you guys tonight, and we're going to dive on into Luke chapter 12. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen for those of you coming in for the first time. Go ahead, drop a note in the comments and let me know you're here. Say hello. If you're watching on the replay a little bit later, then give me a hashtag team replay in the comments so I can come back afterwards and give you a little bit of love too. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and dive in. Give me just a second here to bring my screen up because I like to read it on screen. And let's see. Ooh, I got a lot of screens open. Let me make sure I pick the right one. I don't need to be showing y'all my emails and stuff. There we go. All right. Luke chapter 12. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger tonight. Hey, Rose, you're going to have to go back and check the beginning because I just told our story. So afterwards, go back and listen to the first couple minutes, and I shared our little masa story with everybody tonight. So for those just tuning in, Rose and Kelly are the two friends I was talking about that I just had dinner with, and we had us a great time. All right, guys. I have heard from a few of you that one in particular, that this has been a little bit hard to read and that we might need to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to blow it up a little bit. Maybe, I wonder if I can get a 175% on the screen. There. That's pretty big. I hope they can see it now. Oh, yes, that's what I'm trying to do. I wasn't going to call you out, Rose. I wasn't going to call you out, but since you called yourself out, I'll share it with the world. All right, here we go. Luke chapter 12. And what I like about this chapter, guys, is that the 99% of this chapter is in red. That means it's Jesus talking the whole time. So let's see what the Lord was saying to everyone in Luke 12. Here we go. Jesus warns against hypocrisy. He talked about that a lot in chapter 11 too. Remember, I think it was 5 or 6 times in chapter 11, he called out the Pharisees as hypocrites. So he's on a roll, and we're continuing it into chapter 12. Here we go. By now, a crowd of many thousands had gathered around Jesus. So many people pushed to be near him, they began to trample one another. Jesus turned to his disciples and warned them, "Beware of the hypocrisy of the Pharisees. It permeates everything they do and teach like leaven." Now, leaven is like yeast, right? It's what causes bread to rise and expand. So what Jesus is saying here is that hypocrisy filters over into the teachings of the Pharisees, and if people aren't careful and discerning with what they listen to and learn from them, then there's that possibility that leaven or that hypocrisy that is coming from them could spill over into other areas and maybe even into the lives of the people that are receiving from them. So that's an important thing for us to note as well, is that we need to be careful who and what we allow to speak into our hearts and our lives, and what we let into our ear gates. We have to guard our spirits against false teachings, against hypocrisy, against teachings of ego and pride and those kinds of things, which were self-serving. So the Pharisees, and a lot of their teaching, were self-serving, and they had motives that were to benefit them or the organization that they were a part of, as opposed to really seeking the heart of God and upholding the foundational things that God taught in the law at that time. But That was pre-Jesus, right? Who did not come to abolish the law, but came to fulfill the law. So here we go. Back to it. Everything hidden and covered up will soon be exposed, for the facade is falling down, and nothing will be kept secret for long. Whatever you have spoken in private will be public knowledge, and what you have whispered secretly behind closed doors will be broadcast far and wide for all to hear. Listen, my beloved friends, don't fear those who may want to take your life but can do nothing more. It's true that they may kill your body, but they have no power over your soul. The one you must fear is God, for he has both the power to take your life and the authority to cast your soul into hell. Yes, the only one you need to fear is God. Don't be scared of nobody and what they can do to you or not do to you, because this is only about fearing the Lord, right? And knowing that He's really the only one. He's the one that controls the direction or the trajectory of your life and your future. So the Lord is the one that we are to be concerned with what He thinks about us, not really concerned with what other people think. Okay? What is the value of your soul to God? Could your worth be defined by any amount? God doesn't abandon or forget even the small sparrow He has made. How then could He forget or abandon you? What about the seemingly minor issues of your life? Do they matter to God? Of course they do. So you never need to worry, for you are more valuable to God than anything else in this world. And I can tell you guys, a sparrow is a small bird. I've got a few of them that show up here in my yard for my bird feeder, and they're little tiny little suckers. I thought they was baby birds, but they're just tiny little sparrows. And God cares enough to make sure that they have what they need. Then surely He's going to take care of you because you're His child, you're His beloved, you're the one that He formed. Even before you were born, He formed you in your mother's womb. So He loves you far more than you could ever imagine. So a lot of times I think we get caught up in worrying about the concerns and the affairs of life when really God wants us to not worry about those things and to just trust that He's going to be there, and He's going to make sure that all of our needs are taken care of. He's going to make sure that whatever situations or circumstances we find ourselves in, that it's going to turn out favorable in our lives. And one of my mentors that I have been learning from for about 5 years now, his favorite verse is Romans 8:28, and that says, "For all things work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose." And so he's got a slogan that he says that it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And so that's the mindset that we need to adapt, is that it's not happening to us, it's happening for us. That so because God is always working everything out to our benefit. Why? Because we're more valuable to Him than the sparrows. We're more valuable to Him than the little things that we allow to weigh us down and to cause us to worry in our lives. So don't worry about none of that stuff, boo. God's got you. I can assure you of this. If you freely declare in public that I am the Son of Man, the Messiah, then I will freely declare to all the angels of God that you are mine. So I want to stop right here and say, I publicly declare that Jesus is the Son of Man. He is the Son of God. He is the Messiah, and He is my Savior, and I love Him. So I'm publicly declaring Him, okay? Because I want Him to publicly declare me as His in front of all the angels of God. I encourage you to do the same. But If you publicly pretend that you don't know me, I will deny you before the angels of God. We don't want that to happen, do we? If anyone speaks evil of me, the Son of Man, that one can be forgiven. But if anyone speaks scornfully against the Holy Spirit, it will never be forgiven. Y'all don't be talking about Holy Spirit now. And remember this: when people publicly accuse you and forcefully drag you before the religious leaders and authorities, do not be troubled. Don't worry about defending yourself or how to answer their accusations. Simply be confident and allow the Spirit of wisdom access to your heart. And in that very moment, He will reveal what you are to say to them. One of my spiritual heroes, I guess you could call it, was Catherine Kuhlman. And Catherine Kuhlman she had a really good saying that goes along with this particular verse. She used to say, never defend yourself, always let Jesus be your defense. And that's what this is saying here, that when you're being accused or falsely accused, don't worry about defending yourself. Let the Spirit defend you. And if you are called to give an account or to say anything in your own defense, then don't worry about what you're going to say, because God will give you the words at that time for whatever it is that you need to say. Say, somebody type in the comments, Jesus is my defense. Verse 13. Just then, someone spoke up from the crowd and said, Master, you should compel my older brother to divide the family inheritance and give me my fair share. Jesus answered, My friend, who made me a judge or arbitrator over you? Speaking to the people, Jesus continued, Be alert and guard your heart from greed and from always wishing for what you don't have. For your life can never be measured by the amount of things you possess. Jesus then gave them this illustration. A wealthy landowner had a farm that produced bumper crops. Every year the harvest was so great it filled his barns to overflowing. He thought, what should I do now that every barn is full and I have nowhere else to store more? I know what I'll do. I'll tear down the barns and build one massive barn to hold all my grains and goods. Then I can just sit back, surrounded with comfort and ease, and I'll enjoy life with no worries at all. God said to him, What a fool you are to trust in your riches and not in me. This very night, the messengers of death will demand to take your life. Then who will get all the wealth you have stored up for yourself? The same thing will happen to all those who fill up their lives with everything but God. And y'all, this one speaks. It speaks volumes, and it speaks truth, because so many times I think in life we focus on the things that are so temporary. They seem important and they seem permanent at the time that we're focusing on them, because we're taught and society has conditioned us and trained us to focus on storing up riches and wealth. And there's nothing wrong with having those things. I'll take them. But it's what we do with them and how we use them and what position we give them in our lives. Are those things being placed in front of God? Are they being given higher priority than the things that are of eternal importance that matter? And so this is a reminder here for us not to expend all of our energy and all of our time focusing on those things that are not as important, and focusing on those things that you can't take with you. So what are the things that you can take with you? And then how can you use the resources that you have in heaven now, or that you have on earth now, to benefit you in the eternal? So and he's about to get into talking about some of that here in a minute, but not just when the things that we do have here in this earth, How do we utilize them in such a way that it blesses other people and yields for us an eternal reward and not just a temporary um not just get provides us with temporary comfort or temporary earthly reward. I don't know about you, but I want that eternal reward, because if I recognize and see anything, is that when you go, you can't take it with you. I have a friend that she used to say jokingly, but she would say it, never seen a U-Haul behind a hearse. And that's the truth. You can't take any of this stuff with you, but what can you take with you? It's the good that you do while you're here. It's the deeds, it's the seeds that you sow that produce, that bless other people, and that produce a crop of or a harvest for your eternal reward. Those are the things that our focus and our attention needs to be on, not on storing up and hoarding our spiritual resources as or our earthly resources, really. So, all right, continuing on, and Jesus will talk a little bit more about that here in a minute too. So Jesus taught his disciples, saying, "Listen to me. Never let anxiety enter your hearts. Never worry about any of your needs, such as food or clothing. For your life is infinitely more than just the food you eat or the clothing you wear. Take the carefree birds as your example. Do you ever see them worry? I ain't seen no birds worried. Now, they might be fighting over the bird seed, but I hadn't seen them worried. They neither grow their own food nor put it in a storehouse for later. God takes care of every one of them, feeding each of them out of the abundance of his love and goodness. Isn't your life more precious to God than a bird? Be carefree in the care of God." Does worry add anything to your life? Can it add one more year or even one day? So, if worrying adds nothing but actually subtracts from your life, why would you worry about God's care for you? Think about the lilies. They grow and become beautiful, not because they work hard or strive to clothe themselves. Yet, not even Solomon, wearing his kingly garments of splendor, could be compared to a field of lilies. If God can clothe the fields and meadows with grass and flowers, can he not clothe you as well? Oh, struggling one with so many doubts. I repeat, don't let worry enter your life. Live above the anxious cares about your personal needs. People everywhere seem to worry about making a living, but your heavenly Father knows your every need and will take care of you. As you passionately seek his kingdom above all else, he will supply your needs. So don't ever be afraid, dearest friends. Your loving Father joyously gives you his kingdom with all its promises. Now go and sell what you have and give to those in need. You will be making deposits in your account in heaven, an account that will never be taken from you. That's what I was just talking about a minute ago. Your gifts will become a secure and unfailing treasure deposited in heaven forever. Where you deposit your treasure, that is where you fix your thoughts, and your heart will long to be there also. So that's what I was talking about just a minute ago, is making sure that the treasure that we're building up is there and not here. And I want to scroll back up here to where it was talking about the birds and how they don't store up seed. And while I was reading that, I almost started laughing because it reminded me of a story that I wanted to share about my dad. I have I have a bird feeder, and I keep that sucker full, and it's a big bird feeder. It's maybe like 12 inches, 12 inches tall. So I, fill it up. It'll last 2, sometimes 3 weeks. And my backyard is like a bird sanctuary. I mean, they're back there all the time. And I love it. I just love looking out the window and seeing the birds, or sitting on the porch and watching them. But we had a squirrel issue. Not one squirrel, but two squirrels. And, the birds would come, they would, eat a seed or two, or they would, swoop down, pick one up and fly away with it. They didn't come and stuff their cheeks and keep, making multiple trips back to carry bird seed back to their nest. But that's what squirrels do. They squirrel away, right? They squirrel away for winter and they stockpile. So in the fall, or probably, well, let's see, probably around August or September, the late summer, early fall, the squirrels started coming around more frequently. Dad hated it. He would get so mad at those squirrels. He would get up, and he had mobility issues. He would get his little walker and he would go over to the door and he would open it and he would hobble out there and he would bang on the side of the screen patio. He would be like, and he would make all these noises trying to shoo them away. And it was the funniest thing. I actually videoed it one day, so I have it on video to watch and laugh about when I have times I want to remember him. But he came back in one day and I was laughing at him so hard. And I said, Daddy, don't worry about them squirrels. He said, I'm going to kill them. And I said, No, you're not. You're not going to kill those squirrels. He said, Kill them. He hated for them to mess with that bird seed because he wanted it to be for the birds. But my thoughts were, well, the squirrels need to eat too. And bird seed's not that expensive. I can buy more. So I wanted to make sure that the squirrels were fed too. And so as I'm reading this and I'm thinking about, God takes care of the birds, but he doesn't just take care of the birds. His heart's to take care of the squirrels too and all the other little critters out there, and he makes sure that they have what they need to survive the winter and to eat, and whatever they have need of, he's equipped them for whatever they're created, the purpose that they're created for, right? And then in the same way, we're his children. So if he's done that for the little birds and the little squirrels, how much more has he done that for us, that he's equipped us internally, first of all, with what we need, the instincts, the skills, the talents, the internal resources that we need to survive, not only survive, but thrive in this earth. And he makes sure that they have what they need, what that their needs are met. So how much more is he going to do that for us if we're his children? So a lot of times we worry about things that God doesn't want us to worry about, and that maybe he's just putting us in a situation that we need, that to exercise our faith and to teach us to trust him. I know there's many times in my life and in the lives of my parents when I was growing up that God would show his ability to provide for us. I mean, even not only our needs, but even the desires of our heart. One story that just popped in my mind that my mom used to love to tell, this story was one day, her and dad they were very generous people. Even when they didn't have a lot, they gave a lot. You know what I mean? And sometimes they would give to their own detriment. But they were generous. They just had big hearts to give. And I remember I was about maybe 8 or 9 years old, and uh, mom and dad, we had everything we needed. We weren't without. There was no lack there. But my dad really loved fish, like fresh seafood, like fish and shrimp and stuff like that. And periodically as a kid, one of the things we used to do is, we lived about an hour inland, is we would drive down on the weekends to the coast to this restaurant, this seafood restaurant that was on the coast that they really enjoyed. And the name of it was Julia Mays. It's not there anymore. It's, I think, been torn down, or a hurricane took it out or something. I don't know. But when I was a kid, that was the place to go. They had the best seafood down in that particular part of Florida. And this one weekend, like, my dad was really wanting that. He was really craving it. And they just didn't have the extra funds for it because, it it was a long ride down there, a long ride back. That's gas money. And then it was paying for the meal. And we were fine. We had what we needed, but they didn't have the extra in the budget that particular week. And my dad happened to say to my mom about 10 o'clock or so that morning, man, I sure would like to have me some fried fish and some shrimp. Wouldn't that be good? And mom was like, yeah, that would be good. And so they sat there and they kind of talked about how good that might be. Well, about 2 hours later, 2 or 3 hours later, this man pulled up in our yard and knocked on the door. And he had driven from the coast to our house and brought an ice chest full of fresh fish and shrimp. And we had a cookout that day. Now, it wasn't Julia May's. Actually, it was better because it was fresh caught and homemade. This man had, a shrimping boat, and, he built boats for a living on the coast. And so some of his shrimping customers had brought him all this fresh catch. And he said that God told him to bring them some. And so that's what he did. And so God not only met our needs throughout my life, but there were times when even the extra things that maybe my parents wanted, that he made sure that they had because of their generous giving. And so when I think about and read this particular chapter in Luke and listen to Jesus sharing these principles of faith and these principles of the kingdom, I have all of these fond memories of seeing these things play out throughout my life because my parents lived in this line of faith. They lived with faith in God. And because they did that, I got to see and witness a lot of these things just happen. And so I consider, that's a blessing for me in my life to know that, not only do I read about God's provision, but I've actually got to live through it and see it with my own two eyes. And God's done lots of things like that for me, where there are things that, in my life that where there were questions and I was put in positions of faith that I had to trust in God's ability to take care of me and to provide for me. And he always did. He never fails. And so I just want to encourage you guys tonight, if you're watching and that maybe you're in a position of your faith is being stretched and you're wondering where what you need is going to come from, or even if you'll ever get those little extra things that you desire. I hope that this story encourages you, but more than the story, I hope that Jesus's words here in Luke 12 encourage you that you are more valuable than the birds of the air. You are more valuable than the lilies in the field. And if he takes care of those things, then surely he's going to take care of you. All right, let's get back to it. We got a few more verses we got to read. Starting in verse 35 here. Be prepared for action at a moment's notice. Be like servants anticipating their master's return from a wedding celebration. They are ready at a moment's notice to unlock and open the door for him. What great joy is ahead for those who stay awake and wait for their master's return. He himself will become their servant and wait on them. He may appear at midnight or even later, but what great joy for the awakened ones whenever he comes. Of course, if they knew ahead of time the hour of the master's appearing, they would be alert, just as they would be ready if they knew ahead of time that a thief was coming to break into their house. So keep being alert and ready at all times, for I promise you that the Son of Man will surprise you and appear when you don't expect him. Y'all better be ready now. Don't you? You better be ready. Don't you be caught off guard. And don't let this be a source of fear for you either. Renee said something last night. I woke up this morning thinking about it. And I heard it when he said it. And I heard it when he said it, but it didn't register. I marinated on it all night. And then when I woke up this morning, I was like, that was a really powerful statement. But remember, he said that anything birthed in fear has to survive in fear, but anything birthed in love remains in love. And at that time, he was talking about bringing people to know Jesus and bringing people to salvation. That we didn't ever want to make that be a fear-based decision for people, but let it be because they have a revelation of God's love for them. And but the thing that kept echoing over was anything birthed in fear has to stay in fear. And so this is one of those scriptures that he was referring to that people sometimes use to generate fear, that people use to generate fear to convert people or to make them feel like that they need to always be on their best behavior because you never know when Jesus might return, right? But we don't live from a place of readiness because we're afraid. We live from a place of readiness because we love and because we understand his love for us. So I just want to encourage you guys that to always be ready and always be alert, but not because you're afraid of getting caught doing something you shouldn't be doing, but because you're ready and you're alert and you're always waiting because you love him and you can't wait for that time to be reunited with him and to be in his presence again. Okay. All right, let's continue. Lord, Peter asked, does this apply only to the 12 of us, or is it for everyone else as well? The Lord replied, a master will delegate authority in his house to a trustworthy and thoughtful manager who understands his master's desires. And the household manager will serve others what they need at exactly the right time. And whenever his master returns, he will find that his servant has served him well. I promise you, the master will reward him generously, and he will be placed as an overseer of everything he owns. But what if that servant says in his heart, my master delays his coming, and who knows when he will return? Because of the delay, the servant elevates himself and mistreats those in the master's household instead of caring for the ones he was appointed to serve. He abuses the other servants, both men and women. He throws drunken parties for his friends and gives himself over to every pleasure. Let me tell you what will happen to him. His master will suddenly return at a time that shocks him, and he will remove the abusive, selfish servant from his position of trust. The master will punish him and assign him a portion with the unbelievers. Every servant who knows what pleases his master, yet does not make himself ready and refuses to put his master's will to action will receive many punishing blows. Wow. Every servant who does not know his master's will and unwittingly does what is wrong will receive a less severe punishment. For those who have received a greater revelation from their master are required a greater obedience, and those who have been entrusted with great responsibility will be held more responsible to their master. I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already ablaze with fiery passion for God. I want to pause right here because this verse has been a verse that for probably 20 years that I have loved. In fact, I used to have a tag on the front of my car, and I transferred that tag to 3 different cars. And now I think I still have it. It's maybe in a box in my garage or something. But the tag, it was one of those shiny mirror vanity plates, and it said fire on it. And people it was a conversation starter for sure. People used to always ask me, what does that fire tag mean on your car? And I would always tell them Luke 12:49, where Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace, but I came to bring fire, and how I wish it were already kindled. And a lot of people think that in that particular statement, Jesus is talking about bringing judgment to the earth, but he's not. He's talking about bringing the fiery passion for God, which is why I love the Passion Translation and how it translates this verse, because other translations only say that. They say, I did not come to bring peace, but I came to bring fire, and how I wish it were already kindled. But look at how the Passion says it here. I've come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already ablaze with a fiery passion for God. So the fire that Jesus is talking about here is that passion and that love for God, and that desire to see the fullness of God's purposes manifesting or being made known here in the earth. So that's why I love this verse, Luke 12:49. It's always been one of my favorites. But first, I must be immersed into the baptism of God's judgment, and I am consumed with passion as I await its fulfillment. Don't think for a moment that I came to grant peace and harmony to everyone. No, my arrival will change everything and create hostility among you. From now on, even my family members will be divided over me and will choose sides one against another. Fathers will be divided from sons, and sons from fathers. Mothers will be divided from daughters, and daughters from mothers. Mothers in law will be against brides, and brides against mothers in law, all because of me. Now, he's not talking about family disunity there as much as he is about us having to make a decision of where we're going to prioritize and position our faith. And so it's a key to igniting that fiery passion on the inside of us to see God's purposes made known here in the earth, is that we are aligned more with God and pleasing Him in our lives than we are aligned with the people that we're surrounded with and pleasing them. Jesus then said to the crowds gathered around him, when you see a cloud forming in the west, don't say a storm is brewing, and then it arrives. And when you feel the south wind blowing, you say a heat wave is on the way, and so it happens. What hypocrites! You're such experts at forecasting the weather, but you are totally unwilling to understand the spiritual significance of the time you're living in. You can't even judge for yourselves what is good and right. When you're guilty of wrongdoing, it is better to agree with your adversary and settle your dispute before you have to go before a judge. If not, your adversary may drag you into court, and the judge may find you guilty and throw you into prison until you have paid off your fine entirely. So, who is our adversary? It's not talking about just our physical adversaries, but also talking about our spiritual adversary, and you know who that is. He who shall remain nameless. But it's important that we judge ourselves and get our own hearts right first, and so that when we do approach God and we do approach the judge, and in this case we're talking about God, when we are standing in front of the judge, that we can stand in front of him with a clean heart, with clean hands and a pure heart, knowing that we have placed our faith in Christ and that we have allowed him to help us adjust those things in our lives that need to be adjusted, and that we've learned to discern right from wrong, and we've learned to make those course corrections when we need to make them. Okay? Yes, Samantha, you're totally right. He is a good father, and he meets all of our needs. All of our needs. Are you feeling inspired with fire? Yeah, Rose, that is part of the origin. Luke 12:49 is part of the origin of that. Hey, Aunt Barb, I am like, I ain't mad at you, boo. I'm just happy you're here. You're not late. You're right on time. Yeah, you guys, no, you guys weren't late. I was late. We were supposed to do this an hour earlier. I was the late one, so it's all good. That's what we have replays for. Somebody say team replay. Yeah. Good question, Kelly. Does the use of fear of God truly mean that we should actually fear him? No. No, God does not want us to be afraid of him in the sense of um fear as we know it. You guys see the door opening. Here comes Buddy. He wants to get in on the conversation tonight. He'll jump up here in any minute now. But no, the fear of God is actually talking about having the respect and reverence for God, and in knowing that who he is, and that he's all powerful, and that he is capable um of guiding and directing the direction of your life. So it's really talking more about having that honor and that respect and that reverence for him rather than being afraid. So it's not a fear and trembling, but it's a reverent fear, to that we honor him because of who he is and because of the position that he holds and the power that he carries to influence the direction of our lives. Great question. Yeah, you got it. Jesus is my defense. Jesus is, I must have said something funny here. I don't know what that, oh, I remember what that was. That was because we was making the words bigger, wasn't it? All right. All right. Well, guys, let's see. Let's see what else we got here. Aunt Barb's giving some heart loves. All right. That's it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I was an hour late getting started tonight, but it's all good, because if you came in late, you can go back to the beginning and find out why I was an hour late. And it's a wonderful little story that will give you a glimpse into my life and the lives of my friends, and a tradition started by my mom. I told you he would be up here. He wants to say good night to everybody before we close. Before we close. Oh, okay, okay. That's my boy. That's my big orange hunk of love. Mwah. My big orange hunk of love. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. I know. Miss Kelly says hello. Miss Kelly's on. He said, Miss Kelly, come visit him. Miss Kelly's the best pet sitter ever. He still plays with that toy. You got him. It's his favorite. Every night, every day. See, look, buddy. She says, hi. Don't you get your paws out of my face. They've been in the litter box. No paws on the face. No. Get him, keep him down. Keep him down. He's making me hold his paws down with my mouse hand, so it's I don't know how this is going to work. All right, guys. Well, that's going to be about it for tonight. We'll be back tomorrow for chapter 13 and day 13 of our 24 days to Christmas countdown. And I hope you guys have an awesome evening as always. I want to remind you guys, as if you don't already know, but this and all of these broadcasts in this 24 episode series are dedicated to the loving memory of my mom and dad, Sonny and Joanna Abbott, who are spending Christmas in heaven with Jesus this year. And so I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas. I want to wish them a Merry Christmas and thank them for all the wonderful things that they did for me in my lives and in my life and all the things that they taught me. And you guys have a great Christmas, and we'll see you back here tomorrow. Good night.